Hello and welcome to the Film Angle. This is episode 10 and I'm Alex.
And I'm Kris. I'm surprised we've even gotten this far.
Well, I was going to say, Kris, did you ever think we'd make it? 10 episodes, man.
Yeah, I think we'd have a big fallout by now and walk separate ways and gone full Simon Garfunkel in our first year.
Oh wow, I wouldn't have invested in a mic if I knew you were this pessimistic.
Oh yeah, you're known for being quite tight with your money, but even that was a rash decision for you.
Oh wow. Oh 10th and final episode here.
Yeah, I guess you're witnessing the fallout right now. Yeah, we tried something a little different last time, didn't we? We as we said, we challenged each other to watch pretty horrific movies. I think that's even putting it lightly. Pretty bad, right?
God awful. Sorry, Atlantis Untold, but
Stop
honestly,
saying sorry. You're so apologetic. We gotta rip this away from you. You're too nice, and it makes me sick.
I'm sorry, Atlantis Untold, but it was just honestly one of the worst film experiences of my life.
Well, I think Atlantis should apologize to you, Alex. So we'll the ball's in their court. Yeah, but this week we're just gonna do it a little bit more back to what we usually do. Have a little catch up on the movies we've been watching. I've caught up on quite a few. I don't know about yourself.
Definitely. I have taken on quite a few of your recommendations actually.
Ooh.
But the big one being I've started the Universal horror films. And
Yeah,
I think I'm like 3 in now. I've watched Frankenstein, I've watched The Mummy, I've watched Dracula, and yeah, I am very happy that you got me going on this kind of train.
Well, it's great. It's a journey now that we can both go on together, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, it does mean that for our first 10 episodes and probably the next 10 episodes, because there's so many films in the Universal horror kind of anthology, whatever it is, shared universe, means we'll probably be talking about at least one of them nearly every week when we do a midweek catch up.
Yeah, I'm starting to rethink it. I mean, it spans like something like 30 years, and then I could say it gets to the point where you're like Abbott and Costello meets the Invisible Man. I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to be there for that part of the journey, but I'm certainly going to do the main principal movies.
Definitely. If you go on Wikipedia, there's like different collections, so like main ones that, and I'm thinking maybe I go for the more up to date one, which does skip a few.
Only a few
of the kind of like random ones that have come out, but I'm definitely excited to go further into it, and next one will probably be Invisible Man and Bride of Frankenstein, and I know down the road there's like Frankenstein versus the Wolfman and stuff like that, and that stuff sounds exciting. Like it clearly was the OG shared universe.
Yeah.
How shared it goes, I don't know. Because one of the things I noticed with Dracula, Frankenstein, and The Mummy is that it does share some of the same actors in every single film, but they do all play different parts. Kevin Feige would never.
Well, I think some of them are directed by the same guy, right? As well. What's his name? James Whale.
Out of those three, I don't think it.
Or he's committed to the Frankenstein
director, but I was about to say you've seen more than me, so his name does pop up. But I'm pretty sure Dracula, Mummy, and Frankenstein were 3 separate directors.
Okay,
but definitely shares some of the same actors, and probably same crew.
Yeah, no, I mean, because they all have the same sort of visual look and aesthetic to them. Yeah, I mean, it's just like it makes you really appreciate like how much we owe movies like that to this day. I mean, the earliest, like The Mummy and everything, it's nearly 100 years old and just still looks so good.
Yeah, I think the one for me that really stood out was Frankenstein. It really felt just like you could restore that and still have a good time in the cinema with that. I think just the production design, the way it's paced, the horror and the visuals in it really hold up.
I'm really excited for you to catch up on Bride of Frankenstein.
Yeah,
because I think it takes the next step up.
I'm very excited. It Frankenstein was really an excellent film. I didn't like The Mummy and Dracula as much. I kind of appreciated them, but they would definitely hadn't found their footing yet. There was a bit more kind of slower pace. They had some really interesting scenes. I think both of them have really excellent opening scenes, and then it kind of peters off throughout the film. But like especially with Dracula, the pop culture iconography that you see in it, and for 100 years now has been a staple. Like that is Dracula. That's how Dracula sounds. That's how we all know him to
Yeah.
sound. And I would probably argue that most of us probably haven't seen the original 1930s film, and like
Yeah.
to know so much about how he moves and talks and looks all stems from that film, and it's great. I mean, even just the fact of like the characters having iconic names, your Van Helsings and your Draculas and stuff like that. It really is interesting. They've clearly stood the test of time. And obviously, a lot of these were books as well beforehand, and that makes a difference. But films really do bring it to the masses.
Yeah, and I think it's good. Like you have it for modern reference now. Like you can see like a lot of things that you watch, like The Simpsons, or like we're even like What We Do in the Shadows is like basically doing the Dracula thing, and it's doing the Bela Lugosi. It's taking that straight from that movie, which is like I said,
Definitely.
1931, and it's great to see how something is done so right on its first go, and it just ripples through time and it stays influential. Yeah, I'm having a really good time watching these. Like I said, some more than others. I appreciate. I was with you. I appreciated the Mummy. I enjoyed
Yeah.
some aspects of it, but yeah, I think the Karloff Frankenstein series has been my favorite so far.
Yeah, I think once we get out of the early 30s, the solo films of this franchise, I think we're in for a real treat going forward. If Frankenstein's anything to go by, they
We,
found what they want to do and how they want to go forward and just play around with these characters. So yeah, I'm excited to carry this on. And honestly, like you said, there's a ridiculous amount of films.
yeah, it's like something like 40 something movies. It's pretty long.
But you're right, they're so easy to watch. They're only like 70 minutes. Really easy just to chuck on in the evening and just, a brief kind of film before you go to bed. And it's not like you're ever bored. Like maybe
No.
there's elements of like Dracula and Mummy which are a bit boring, but it's not a long film, so like just watching kind of filmmaking from 100 years ago and the kind of sensibilities that are still ingrained in our kind of film minds now. Yeah, it brilliant watches.
I think it's any time. Those movies only get boring whenever they focus on anybody that's like so you get loads of like socialite proper characters in these where it's like very prim and proper people talking in a room in like middle parts of the movies, and that's probably where it slows down and you're like, oh, I want to see Dracula again, I want to see Karloff, I want to see Lugosi. But would you say Dracula is like the original bad boyfriend, like the original original bad boy Edward Cullen?
Yeah, less sparkly, but yeah, definitely. The actor, what's his name? Edward Van Sloan always plays the doctor or the professor that tells you exactly what's going on with these monsters, and like this is how vampires do things, and da da da
Yes, I've
da.
I have seen this thing before when I was back in
Yeah.
Liechtenstein.
Which is great. So, yeah, really having fun with the monster films at the moment.
Glad. It feels like I'm not taking a solo journey now. It revalidates me, Alex. Thanks very much.
That's all right. I started with these before I had down the other recommendation of yours, which was obviously the Star Trek films. But I think the less we talk about Star Trek, the better, right? You haven't seen any more, have you?
Oh, I'm sorry. Is that a bad thing? Well, you'll be glad to hear I haven't caught up in any more, okay? It'll probably be a bit of a while because I'm going to finish the show before I go watch the rest of the movie. So you got a little bit of time, bit of respite from me.
Bit of respite from the Trek talk. Yeah, thanks.
Oh, this guy's talking about fucking track again. Oh, Jesus. Yeah, I can hear it loud and clear. It's fine. It's fine. I get the message.
It's for our audience's sake, Chris. Okay.
They might all be Trekkies. No, we'll go with a no.
The silence is deafening.
It is. It is. That's
What else
fine.
you been catching up on, man?
Yeah. What did I watch? Obviously, I caught up with. I've been really anticipating Richard Linklater's new film, Apollo 10 and a half. So took it as an opportunity to reintroduce Lauren to Boyhood because she'd never seen it before. A film I really love. I've seen it quite a
Hmm.
few times. It's
Yeah.
one of those rare movies that's like nearly 3 hours long, but you could like watch it whenever. Like it's just like one of the most replayable things ever, and I think that's just Linklater to a T. He's just got such a way, a naturalistic way with films that they just seem so comforting, and it's like visiting an old friend.
Yeah, definitely. I haven't seen Boyhood in quite a long time, but when I saw it, I loved it. It's like quietly epic,
Yeah,
and for anybody who isn't familiar, it was actually filmed over 12 years of time, and you actually get to watch a young child grow into a young man, and I guess because of the times it was filming, it probably follows the trajectory of our lives pretty well, wouldn't you say, Chris? Like I remember he's growing up with the same films as we are. He's got Game Boys and stuff like that, like the kind of video game consoles that we were growing up with.
yeah. I
And
think the movie, probably the principal photography for the movie starts in 2002 because the movie came out 2014. So
yeah,
I think at this time our main character, he is 2 years older than me in real life. So like, how many years older than me are you?
probably two, right?
What year were you born?
1994.
94. I was 96, so yeah, that makes sense. So you're perfectly in tandem with him. So yeah, you see a lot of similarities. The tech, everything like
Yeah,
that. Like you see shots of playing the game playing a Game Boy, going queuing up for the latest Harry Potter book for a midnight showing, and it's a lot of things. Like the,
yeah,
the details are just there, and there's something about it. Yeah, we can all relate to it in a way. We got the scene where they camp out with a bunch of boys in their neighborhood who are like nearly 10 years older than them, but they think they're really cool. And they're teaching all the younger kids like trying to be badass in front of them. And we've all had that sort of like um friends in our streets or wherever you grew up, like, had those influences, and it gets all the details right and soaks them in, but it just has this plot thread line that really hits you hard without you even knowing it.
yeah. The way it follows the parental figures in his life as well, almost as much as it follows him
Of
and
course.
their kind of struggles with their relationships and their finances and stuff like that. It's a really kind of interesting portrayal of kind of America as it goes through the times and
Isn't it
everything that comes with that.
isn't it just crazy? Like it's unfathomable like the undertaking this project was. I mean, to film something for 12 years and get all the actors on board, making sure all the stars are aligned. I think Linklater
Definitely.
even made a clause, didn't he? He made like a pact with Ethan Hawke that if he was to die during it all for these years, that Ethan Hawke would overtake the production and direct the rest of the years.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I mean, it's also great that he brought on actors like Ethan Hawke and Patricia Arquette, who are
Yeah,
fantastic
Arquette's
actors.
fantastic.
Watching them grow at the same time, I love Ethan Hawke, Chris. The audience maybe doesn't know yet, but here we go. I love Ethan
Oh,
Hawke.
I'm on board, but I'm the same as you, man. I'm a big Hawk guy.
Big Hawke guy,
Hawk guy,
and
not Hawk eye.
Hawkeye, and I'll watch him in whatever he does, and I think he's a fascinating actor. And I love Linklater. Before Sunrise, Before Sunset, Before Midnight. Some of my favorite films of all time. It almost makes me sad that Apollo 10 and a half kind of released with zero fanfare, zero advertising from Netflix. I didn't even know there was a new Linklater film coming out until I heard people talking about Apollo 10 and a half. And it wasn't until I went on the Letterboxd and saw it was directed by Richard Linklater that I even knew that he had a new film out.
Yeah.
That makes me sad that Netflix haven't supported him in the same way they might have supported another iconic director. Your
And it's
Martin Scorsese's and stuff like that.
quite a personal film for him as well, from what I've read. It's like semi-autobiographical, that it's kind of how he remembered growing up sort of during the space age of the late 60s, and it's sort of got elements of his own childhood. And it's this guy, I mean, even if you don't know his name, you've bound to have seen School of Rock,
Yeah,
things like we all his movies, and just it should be more of a household name. It surely is for people who are into cinema, but everybody would like his stuff if they really took the time to go their way and watch it.
yeah. Linklater's one of the most fascinating directors out there, and really pioneered some interesting films within the indie space. Clearly obsessed with time and stuff like that, and are very influential in my kind of taste in films and a big part of my kind of like studies as well. When I was in university, like Slacker was big on my list, and I
Yeah.
was writing about a lot of films like that, and even making films or short films like that. It was very influential on my taste. But yeah, I'm sure we'll be talking about Apollo 10 and a half in a future episode because we're both going to get around to watching that pretty soon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now that we know it exists.
No, yeah, exactly. If I didn't go on to
Ridiculous.
Netflix and go on to the coming soon section, do the navigating, I probably would have slipped by me unless, someone else said otherwise.
Going from good films, but don't get me wrong, we're not going back to Atlantis Untold. We
Atlantis Reborn.
Oh man, it's another water themes film though. I caught up with Death on the Nile, which is on Disney Plus now. Kenneth Branagh's
Ooh.
sequel to Murder on the Orient
And
Express.
is it a direct sequel?
Pretty much, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It even has a returning character. Though I couldn't remember much from Murder on the Orient Express. I had to kind of Google. I was like, have we seen it before? Oh, we have. Oh, interesting. Okay. I do not remember him, but sure, 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 sure.
I haven't had the chance to catch up with Murder on the Orient Express yet, and I was like, can I just go straight into Death on the Nile? So do I have to really watch Murder
Oh,
first?
you could definitely watch Death on the Nile. It's still its own thing. Yeah, you could definitely still watch it. However, that being said, Murder on the Orient Express is a relatively decent light murder mystery film. Interesting cast, and I guess that's what it's kind of going for with Death of the Nile. Again, you've got like this cast of different actors from they're very recognizable actors from all different walks of life,
Yeah.
and take part in this murder mystery. That in a 2 and a bit hour film, no deaths occur until an hour into the film. And that was one of the big problems with the film itself. On top
Okay.
of very weird, kind of cheap looking backgrounds, awful green screen, CGI that really takes you out of the film. It looks cheap, it looks awful. There's an interesting kind of prologue at the start that de-ages Kenneth Branagh and provides
Oh,
a
is this the mustache origin story that I've heard of?
Yep, this is the mustache origin story. We get an origin story for Poirot, Detective Poirot's mustache, and everything about this film feels half-assed and cheap and thrown together, and it's such a shame. You've got some interesting actors here. I feel like it's kind of been put on the back burner a bit because there's been a few people with some pretty bad allegations in there, and it's kind of a lot of cancelled and half cancelled people,
Yeah.
if one can be.
It feels like I watched the trailer for that a long, long time ago.
Definitely, yeah, yeah. I think it was another thing where COVID set it back. The 20th Century Fox merger with Disney set it back, and
Right.
when you have some allegations against your stars, and some other stars doing some dodgy things, I just don't think Disney knew what to do with it. I think there was a half-assed attempt at a cinema release earlier in the year, and then it's just kind of dropped on Disney
Yeah.
Plus. But I mean, like on top of all of that, it's just not a good film. It's just not a good film. It takes way too long to get going. Everybody seems to be on a different level of hamminess. And I do like the hammy acting. It's a campy murder mystery. It's meant for your grandparents at the end of the day.
Now, is that a problem? Is that a fault with the source material or with Kenneth Branagh's directing?
Well, I just think everybody's on different levels. Like everybody's over 10, like we're all whacking the campy hamminess up, which is great, but they're all on varying levels. And I'm not sure if anybody fully knew what the vision for the type of film it was supposed to be. The set of the Nile, not of the Nile, the boat that's on the Nile looks great, but it's completely just like destroyed by these disgusting, like PS2 style backgrounds. It's really, really bad. And it took me out of the film. I know bad CGI shouldn't be like a criticism necessarily, like, because you're
Right.
trying to hold the film to like the whole thing overall, but man, does it take you out.
Well, I remember when the trailer dropped and everybody was trolling the Gal Gadot's line of enough champagne to fill Nile.
Yes, yeah. Oh man, I don't hate Gal Gadot.
She's utilized well in Wonder Woman as a fish out of water because it just works. But her face doesn't have many modes. I think in terms of, I think she, I don't know. She
Her range is limited.
yeah,
She looks the part. Her range is limited. I wouldn't even go as far to say she was a bad actress. I think she's fine. She's serviceable, and is she? I wouldn't even say she was the worst person here.
was the mustache.
They're all on a similar level of not great.
What's
You
Russell
know,
Brand like in it? Because he looks. It's quite interesting seeing him like without the beard, without the guru thing going on.
yeah, he's fine. Again, not given much to do. I mean, you have Dawn French in there. Again, not really given
Oh
much to
yeah.
do. Because there's so many people in there, they all get a limited amount of screen time to show off, and nobody really makes a mark.
See, I think the problem is with these Agatha Christie sort of murder mysteries is that time has came on a long way since they were first sort of written, or the original film kind of films were brought on the screen, and we've been treated to a lot of very sophisticated murder mystery dramas. I can even refer to like Knives Out a couple of
Yeah,
years ago, very elaborate, very satisfying, and now these sort of movies just feel a bit pedestrian, a little bit
yeah.
inoffensive, I think is the polite word to say.
Definitely, definitely, and I think you're right in referencing Knives Out as it's kind of the killer of this genre
Hmm.
because it took that your grandparents' murder mystery, turned it on its head, was really witty and interesting and contemporary at the same time, like slightly parodying the the genre, but creating something new. And I think that's the brilliance of Ryan Johnson, who directed Knives Out, to take something like that, take something that we know
Hmm.
very much in the similar way he did with The Last Jedi, and kind of push it forward.
Yeah.
When you see it done that well, and then you go back to normal, it kind of ruins it a bit. Yeah, you want the innovation, you want the contemporary masterpieces that kind of Ryan Johnson's able to provide.
That's horrible. I hate to like have to, be down in the dumps on Brannagh, and because I really like him. I think he's a really nice guy, and I think he's a very earnest filmmaker. He does actually put his all into everything. But yeah, I think he's just a little bit heavy with the on the directing side. I think he needs to strip it back a little bit because I think he does have talent. I think he can make a good
Oh yeah,
movie. He's just had a few misses lately, and I'm not the biggest fan of Belfast either, as much as other people. I think again that movie is a victim of his over. He has too much of a touch on things
yeah.
sometimes, and he needs to be able to kind of know. I think maybe that's that Shakespearean background that he's from, like he's used for 30 years, and he needs a bit more subtlety.
Yeah, it's a bit of a heavy-handed, hammy
Yeah.
slog at the end of the day. I see what he's trying to do by, reigniting this old school style of murder mystery. And you know what? If he makes another, I'll watch it. But yeah, this potential middle part is has not been my favorite.
Is there a promise of a third one? Is there from watching the movie?
Not that I can remember, but you know how these films are. you know,
Yeah, they do well.
Yeah, I don't know how well this one did, but they might blame COVID and stuff.
Mm,
Maybe if it streams enough, they'll release another murder somewhere.
yeah, sure.
Whatever the next Agatha Christie thriller is.
Well, speaking of murder, I've been reintroducing, well, not reintroducing, I've been introducing Lauren into the Scream franchise because as of last year, she was completely new to the whole thing. I was like, you haven't seen Scream? I mean, like, that's like a rite of passage when you're growing up. Everybody's got to see it, right? It's a franchise that a big fan.
No, you're gonna hate me for this. I haven't seen it either.
You haven't even seen the original Scream.
I've not seen the original Scream. No, I only recently last year got round to watching the original Halloween.
Oh man.
My slacker genre is lacking.
Well, that's fine. I mean, like,
Slasher, should I say slacker? I've got Richard Linklater on the brain. My slasher genre is lacking.
I'm so surprised by that because it's definitely, I don't know. Whenever I was growing up, I had a lot of like older, I had older siblings and I had cousins that were sort of that like 5 year, 7 year gap ahead of me, and like VHSs were still really big, and we had in Ireland we have, instead of Blockbuster, we had like Extravision. So I remember my cousin used to always rent Scream like every week, and I used to, it scared the shit out of me back in those days because when you're like 7 or 8 and your imagination is just like wild, everything's new, and every time he would threaten me by putting Scream on, I was like, no, 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 don't screaming like a little girl. But no, I'm a really big fan of it these days. They're just they're really convoluted, but they're really good fun. Wes Craven is just a guy. How impressive! Like the guy has. How many people are successful in creating two major franchises in a genre? I mean, both the Nightmare on Elm Street and Scream are his babies, and that he's completely been in control of like the projects going forward. I mean, he directed all four of the original Scream movies. Obviously didn't direct the new one because unfortunately he passed away. But
Mm.
he's a genius, and these movies so tongue in cheek, quintessentially 90s, and yeah, they're just good, fun genre movies. I definitely catch up on them. I like all of them.
Yeah, yeah. No, I do want to catch up. I think I was maybe slightly down on horror films in my younger years, thinking of them as kind of like trashy films, which a lot of them can be, but I think I found more fun in the trash as I've matured. And kind of catching up with some of these slasher films recently. But yeah, Scream's on my list. I do need to catch up with it, but it does make me think, like, what is the slasher film of our generation, Chris? Like, obviously, we were babies in the 90s. What?
Hmm.
Surely we are ready for a modern slasher film to kind of come back now, because I just feel like our generation is lacking in something iconic. Like the 70s and 80s had Halloween and
Mm-hmm.
now Nightmare on Elm Street,
I
and
know
then
we're
then obviously,
obsessed of remaking the classics. That's what we're doing. Like Halloween has been really trudged from its watery grave, and it's being dragged through the mud, trying to squeeze as much out of this property as possible. I don't know if you agree with that, but yeah,
well, I've it's a weird one. I've only seen the latest
Oh,
Halloween.
you didn't
I
see the
didn't.
first one?
No, so I've seen the original. I've seen the original Halloween now,
Yeah.
and then I've seen the latest one, which was Halloween Kills, the Evil Dies Tonight one.
Yeah, Evil Dies Tonight.
I watched that one first because I was on a stag do, and the guys I was with wanted to watch that one, so I was like, yeah, screw it. Who am I to say no? I'm in the minority here. But yeah, I didn't have a bloody clue what was going on most of the time. But I kind of enjoyed it, and it made me then go back and watch the original. I will now get round to watching the rest of them. But yeah, I mean, is there nothing to love in the new Halloweens at all?
Well, I
I mean,
think like
Danny McBride wrote them. I love that.
yeah, that's strange. Like he's been a bit of a screenwriter for like he's always. I think he originally graduated from film school as a screenwriter, and that's what he wanted to do, and then fell into the lap of acting afterwards, which was quite interesting. And now he's kind of coming back, wanting to do that a little bit more.
I mean, he's a comedy genius in my eyes. Eastbound and Down,
Of course.
Vice Principals, and now the Righteous Gemstones. I love his TV shows. So yeah, I will get round to the Halloweens because the new ones, because I like him.
Yeah, that's just got really like well, the movies of Halloween have got a really messed up timeline as well. It was really confusing because you got the original Jamie Lee Curtis Halloween um from '79, and then they have loads of Spawn sequels from that
Yeah.
go up all the way to like Halloween. I think it's Halloween. Is it Halloween 2000? Something like that.
Yeah, yeah. I've seen like there are like different timelines. So
Yeah.
it's like Halloween, then Halloween 2, then
Two.
Halloween 3, 4. But you could also do Halloween and then Halloween 2000, and then
Yeah.
Halloween H2O.
Well,
Uh,
yeah, H2O. That's the one. Yeah, it's like now it's thinking now we're supposed to follow the timeline. Watch the original Halloween movie. Now skip all the rest and go to the new trilogy. Now that's basically the way the
yeah.
timeline works. So it's it's like whatever. Just stick one on if you enjoy it. Enjoy it. It's kind of the way it is now.
As convoluted as like the Terminator franchise has gone now.
Oh yeah, yeah, exactly. Going back to Scream, really fun time. I think you'd really enjoy it. They're really good. Like the whole movie's centered around you trying to work out who did it, who is it, and that's kind of
Yeah.
fun. and there's loads of dynamics and loads of fake outs. Yeah, and it's kind of funny too. They're funny. They're comedies as well. Did you catch up on anything that wasn't to do with murder? I mean, that seems to be like our big theme later lately.
Do you know what? No, not at all. The other film that I watched is a recommendation of yours again. So thank you, Chris.
Oh, you're
So
welcome.
the other week we were talking about The Rescue, and kind of how scary caving now is, and I did say that potentially don't ever want to watch a caving film ever again after watching The Rescue, and you said you should watch The Descent, and I said maybe I'll give it 10 years. Turns out my fiance Em said, "Hey, I really want to watch that film that Chris recommended, The Descent." And who am I to say no? So we put The Descent on, which is currently on Netflix. I loved it. Neil Marshall, director, and the first horror film that feels like a long while, but truly scared me, as this kind of expedition of a bunch of friends, and they go down into these caves. And like that's scary enough. There's enough tension throughout the first half of the film where they're just
Mhm.
caving and it's scary. Some of the caves enclosed on themselves, and they don't know where they are. They've gotten lost, and that's scary enough. And then all of a sudden there's these kind of like bloodthirsty goblin creatures in the caves hunting them as well. And they are blind, so they can only hear you. And it's freaky and horrible, and really quite a pessimistic film. Like it's really dark and
Yeah,
disgusting, and the ending just kind of leaves you in a bad place rather than a good one.
it sees the
Um,
worst in people, doesn't it? Sometimes, actually.
definitely. I will say this, that so out of the friends were all like a bunch of women, and it was difficult in the dark to really tell them apart.
Mhm.
So like the film does suffer from not really always knowing. Like maybe it's just me, but I struggled to know who I was following at times, because some of the women did look very similar to each other.
That's fine. I think the movie does like make it its mission to disorientate you, though, and it does a good
Yeah,
job of that.
definitely. But yeah, apart from that, yeah, excellent film, and like I said, truly scared. Like that was a scary film, and I like that about it. It just felt very unique and original at the same time.
Yeah, because it starts off as a sort of claustrophobic tension between friends sort of expedition movie, but then it goes like I said, does the 180 thing, but does it really well. Like these creatures, they introduce these creatures out of nowhere, but it does it in such a way like it gets away with it. I'm a big fan of Neil Marshall too. His early work, like everybody probably, a lot of people have seen Dog Soldiers, and that's a really big cult movie of his that a lot of people even have at least heard of. And I think The Descent was 2005, so I think that was his last big commercially well received movie. And I'm still like, we're still waiting. I think he still is interested in the horror genre. He does a couple of things. He does TV, like directed few Game of Thrones episodes and things like
Yes,
that.
yeah,
So I think we're waiting for him to come back and give us another wee gem. I think he's got another one left in him, but yeah,
definitely. I'd like to think so. He did the Hellboy reboot, which wasn't really well received, and
yeah.
I think I watched it on a plane, and I didn't really like it that much. So I think he's due a bit of a kind of smaller horror comeback if possible.
But I think he's suited in he's like the mid 2000s guy. Like his movies had that aesthetic that looked perfect for the era. Um,
Yeah.
he's kind of trapped in that era too. But yeah, big. I'm glad you like The Descent. Great movie. Yeah, it's one of those ones I like to throw on every now and again. It's like, oh, this shows somebody like this is a great horror movie you've probably never seen.
Yeah, definitely. I wasn't aware it existed till you told me. So there you go. Great recommendation from Chris. So
Oh, it's okay.
listeners, you should be listening to what this guy says, man.
I can't take it. I'm blushing. I'm blushing. It's fine. Well, you can always recommend me something, Alex.
Every time I recommend you a film, Chris, you never watch it. How many years did it take for you to watch Far From Heaven?
That was right. It's probably the only movie you recommended to me.
This is my grudge from our early days at Toys R Us. Chris recommended many a film which I got around to watching. I recommended one film to him. I recommended Far From Heaven because I knew he'd like Far From Heaven, because you really like Carol that year and stuff like that. And I thought you would love Far From Heaven. and it took you like 3 years to watch it.
Yeah, I'm a big Todd Haynes fan. I like his work, but I just never
Clearly not.
caught up just didn't catch up with that movie. But yeah, but I got around it, and I loved that movie. I
Well,
actually wouldn't shut up. I wouldn't shut up to Lauren about 2 weeks for it. It's like, Dennis Quaid's really good. He play. It's like a 1950s movie about like a repressed gay guy.
it's so melodramatic.
Yeah, it's great. I love it.
Yeah, no, it's great. I do love Far From Heaven. It's one of my favorites, actually.
Yeah, no. I definitely any recommendations in the future, I'll take on board, and I'll give me a week's notice, and I'll catch up with them.
That's very kind. That's very kind. I did think that maybe one day we could flip the bad film segment that we did last week and turn it into like a one of the like a something that's on our watch list, a blind spot, but a good film, because everybody has good films on their kind of watch list that they just haven't gotten around to. You know, something big that everybody always talks about. I'm sure you've got some, and I know I've definitely got some.
Yeah,
Let's do that one day.
Yeah, I think we both have our like genres that we prefer, and I know, like, for example, I'm a big animation guy and a Western guy, and you're maybe not as big into those genres, but then would you probably say you're probably a bit more versed in world cinema more than me?
Maybe. I don't know. I think we're pretty the same, but
we're pretty similar. We're pretty similar.
Sorry to go off on you there, Chris.
Go
what
on.
I'm trying to say is I don't have any recommendations for you right now.
Oh, that's fine, man. We can trudge for. I'll trudge for your director, your letterbox to kind of we'll find something. I'm sure you've watched loads of movies that I haven't seen. I think the big blind spot for me that you're a big fan of Kevin Smith, and I've hardly seen any of his movies.
Yeah.
I've seen Clerks, and that's it, and Clerks 2.
If you like those, I'd definitely say carry on. I'm a big fan of Kevin Smith. You know, I wouldn't say like the majority of his films aren't masterpieces, but he's such a unique guy. And I think there's something as well as somebody who I've kind of looked up to as I went through my film studies and stuff like that, because he's very open about filmmaking and his kind of creative brain and choices and ideas and how he's gotten on within the industry.
Yeah.
And now podcasts, like I have several Kevin Smith podcasts that I listen to every day, and so like the guy's been in my ear for quite a while now.
You're a big fan of Jay and Silent Bob, who actually make a cameo in Scream 3.
Yes, I am aware. So
it's pretty funny.
I'll have to get around to it. Yeah, no, I do love Kevin Smith, so there you go.
No secret there. Well, I think that will do us for now. Obviously, I'm away to Northern Ireland to visit my folks for a little while, but I think I'll find time. We'll fit another episode in and make sure that you guys have another weekly one to catch up with us on. It's been really fun to catch up again on movies, Alex, with you as always.
Yeah, it's been absolutely great. I've had a fun time. I hope the audience has enjoyed it too. I know sometimes we just kind of take the mick out of each other, but hopefully everybody's still on board.
I can hear them just screaming, chanting now, more Star Trek, more Star Trek.
No, I think you're mixing up the more with no. It's more of a n. It's more of a n sound.
Well, I am deaf in one ear, so that's my fault, guys. Right, well, I think that about does us there. Thank you guys once again for listening to The Film Angle. My name is Chris.
And I'm Alex.
Goodbye.
Hi, Alex here, just popping in briefly at the end here. As you can tell from the end of that episode there, we were pretty optimistic that we'd be able to get recording in whilst Chris was away, but unfortunately that's not been the case, so we are going to be taking a week's break. So next week, unfortunately, there won't be a new episode. Maybe go back through some of our past episodes, if you've just joined us. Have a listen to the ones which you haven't listened to yet. But the following Wednesday, we will be back with a new episode from The Film Angle. We're not going anywhere. We just haven't been able to get a recording done. Okay, so see you then. Thank you very much.